So hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. Great. I'm excited. You know, things are going wonderful right now, for sure.
So let's jump into you as a vocalist.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am.
So do you remember when you heard metal music for the first time?
Well, I guess yeah, because you know it depends how far back you go. But I'd definitely say first time I technically heard metal music was God, I'd have to have been in 5th grade maybe. I was in 5th grade, so 8 years old maybe. Oh no, it's 10 years old. So, and it would be technically, it would probably be the first time I heard Iron Man by Black Sabbath. I'd say that's probably, you know, the first metal song I heard. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. So, then to this day, Black Sabbath is my favorite band of all time. So there you go.
So what made you become a vocalist and pick up a microphone?
I've always loved music in general. Even just before I had my own taste in music, when I just be with my parents on long drives, you know, they'd be listening to the radio and I would sing along with the radio. My dad had a very large vinyl collection, so I'd always go through his and I'd pick out the ones with cool album covers and listen to that and, you know, really get to learn and stuff like that. And then when I finally got my own taste in music, when you shift away from your parents, my first records were Kiss, AC/DC, and Black Sabbath, you know, and I just loved it. You know, like any kid, air guitar, sing, but I always sang because it's easy. I'm not easy, but I mean, it was a thing. I didn't have an instrument, so it was always, as say, air guitar, you could sing to the air. And I remember I was fortunate enough that my first concert ever was Kiss in 1979 at the Cow Palace in San Francisco. So that was the Dynasty tour. And my two aunts actually brought me and 3 other original members of Death Angel. So I was 10, Rob was there as well, Rob was 10 as well, Dennis was 11, and Andy, our drummer, was 7. And the band hadn't formed yet, but we were all, you know, cousins of it. And our aunt brought us. And I just remember when the lights went out, Kiss hit the stage. Within 5 minutes, I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. That's what I want to do. And ever since then, it's always been in the back of my head that that's what I want to do. And eventually, I started taking voice lessons. And I thought Death Angel had already formed, but they sang between them, and I started taking voice lessons. I wanted to form my own band, you know, but eventually all, you know, pieces fell into place, and they asked me to be the vocalist, and there you go. That's how we started.
So was like Death Angel your first proper band then?
Yeah, for me, I was fortunate in that regard that Death Angel formed in 1982. And I joined in 1984. So I kind of, in a sense, was fortunate in that regard, because they had already played with, they played with Wasp, they played with Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath Tour before I joined. And they were already developing somewhat of a fall. And then I joined. My first show ever was November 24th, 1984, at a club in San Francisco called The Stone, and it was Megadeth Epic. That was my first time ever being on stage fronting a band, was that show. So I mean, in that regard, I kind of had a boost, if you will, you know. So, and it's just sink or swim, you know, and I've been swimming ever since, I guess. Yeah.
So when you started singing, were there like some specific vocalists that you looked up to? And did you first try to sort of mimic their way of singing before you developed your own sound?
Absolutely. I mean, my favorite singers when I first started singing were, I guess, definitely the obvious ones too. I think like rock vocalists or metal vocalists from this, at least my era, was always Ozzy, Dio, Rob Halford, and Bruce. And those are the guys, you know, they were back then. And I tried to emulate them, but I in no way, shape, or form had the ability, you know. So I just kept trying, and you eventually find your own voice by trying to emulate these people, and you have to find your own voice, or people will call you out, and
you will most likely destroy your voice as well.
Truly, because if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. So I also started taking, as I said, voice lessons for many years, and I just kind of, and I've had different styles, different teachers, and I took the best of what they taught me, or things I thought worked and things I didn't think worked, and made it my own kind of, my warm-up routine is very unorthodox, but it works for me, and I just, when I first started singing with the band, like I really didn't know what I was doing, and when I listen to a lot of the 80s Death Angel stuff, I still kind of wince, because it just takes me back to a time where I truly just didn't know what I was doing, and a lot of critics and metal fans kind of said the same, which you could take it and have it destroy you, or you could take it and use that for fuel to make you want to try harder and get better, and that's what I chose to do, and I just kept working at it and working at it and working at it. Once I finally saw my ability finally making progress, then I tried to start finding my own voice. And a great thing for me that I take as a big compliment is I still run into people all the time that say to me, yeah man, in the 80s I liked a lot of Death Angel music, but I didn't like your voice. And I'm like, and they're like, but I love it now. You know what I mean? So that's the thing, is that when I hear that from people, they didn't like me at first, but now they like my voice. And it just makes me feel like, okay, I did it right. I didn't quit, and I went for it, and I've won a lot of people over that didn't. And don't get me wrong, some people love that era of my voice, but I myself don't. So I side with the people that like me now, you know what I mean?
So when you started singing, were there like first some covers that you did when you started learning? And with Death Angel, was it like immediately writing into your own music?
Death Angel was absolutely writing to our own music, absolutely. I mean, and then covers we recorded some covers. We recorded Cold Gin on Frolic Through the Park, it was a Kiss song. But over the years, live, we've worked in a lot of things that we've done covers of. We also recorded Heaven and Hell, as a bonus track on one of our records. And we did that live for quite some time. Also, Falling Off the Edge of the World. And so you kind of see where I'm getting at. Dio was always one that I really kind of emulated. And with him, I said it before, it's like he's still the one that vocally I grasp onto the most. And I would still always try to emulate him, and a lot of my stage moves are kind of based on how he used to walk on stage, and I'm shameless about it, because I've said it before. I go, if you're not trying to emulate him, you're doing it wrong, So you just kind of, I'm not imitating him, but I take facets of his incredible voice and his incredible stage presence, and also, with the same thing, how incredible he was with fans. I try to take
super with fans.
Absolutely. I try to take all that and do the same, Yeah.
So were you losing your voice in the early days, like all the time? Did it take like long time to figure out the right technique so you wouldn't lose your voice?
Oh, for sure. And these were sometimes we weren't even on tour. You'd have a good show, and all of a sudden, you have a show a few days later and your voice is thrashed. So I definitely went through that. And that's it. I can't say enough that voice lessons really helped me. They really did. And as I said, you take those bits and what works for you. But even over the years, it's tough, because now that you tour, it's a grind. And that's the toughest thing is, being a singer is tough, because a lot of times it's lack of sleep. People get sick on the bus, and it goes around. And I've had so many times on tour where, you do everything you want, wash your hands, try to stay, but it eventually, unfortunately, hits you too. And a lot of times it's not just, stomach stuff. A lot of times it's strep throat, and there you go. And you're like, here, but you can't cancel. You know what I mean? You just can't. It's not the days of, at least in the level that I've got to. It's not that you can't just cancel. It's too expensive too. And, you want to play for the fans, but unfortunately, you want to give them the best. But I think bands kind of know if you're up there and they know that you're sick and you're giving it your best, I think they appreciate that too. They see that, you know, you're doing it, but it's rough. But I've grown over the years to know, as I said, my warm-ups, you know, lots of tea and honey, lots of lozenges. I've recently started using a nebulizer, which I've never used before. And a lot of people just told me, you know, a lot of my friends who were singing, was like, you got it, get a nebulizer. You know, but I did, and I swear by it. I swear by it. So it's all the things, and you just have your same rituals and superstitions that you do before you go on stage, and you find what works for you over the years. And since I've been doing it now, God, since '84, obviously, I'm doing enough things that work out right for me that I still have a career in doing it, you know, and a career that's growing, but I know what works for me very well may not work for other people. I know there are some vocalist friends of mine, you know, they're you know, you're going on stage in 10 minutes, meanwhile they're just side stage talking, you're smoking a cigarette, or you're like, you know, drinking a beer or something, no warm up, and next thing they're like, oh shit, the intro, put their cigarette out, go up, and they just kill it. Some people, it's
everyone
just,
is very different.
Yeah, it is, and it's just, I don't know if it's genetics or whatnot, but you know, I have a particularly, I can't say sensitive, but definitely very human voice that I need to take care of.
How was it with the early days and early tours? Were you ready as a vocalist to do like show after show after show? And were there like first tours more of a like learning experience? I guess it was also quite much partying involved and everything like that.
Yeah, the early tours were definitely harder, you know, definitely. And especially because some of us you're riding in a van, you know, and you're getting sleep sitting up and stuff like that. And literally the best thing for a voice is sleep. That's really what it boils down to. The best thing you can do is sleep. And when it's deprivation of it is just brutal. So it was tough the earlier tours. And you do, yeah. You get caught up in the party, everything, and it just it takes its toll eventually. But now, you know, I found my way. I still celebrate life for sure, but you know, you find cutoff point, and I know I have to go to bed. I know I have to, you know, and that's my main thing is keep hydrated, get a lot of sleep, you know.
So how much has your like warm-up routines changed through the years? What is like your typical warm-up routine nowadays before the show? How do you prepare?
Well, physically I do a lot of stretching just because of moving and whatnot. It helps my body relax. And then it's just pretty unorthodox. A lot of it vocally, it's got a 20-minute warm-up. You know, everything from just goofy sounds that every singer makes, the, you know, the buzz, so you can hear the reverberation coming kind of from the top of your head. And a lot of just exercises, you know, even funny sounds, because it just loosens up all the muscles here, loosens up the muscles here.
Do you do scales?
Not a lot of scales. I do certain things from different songs that very much resemble scales. Okay. You know what I mean? I do a few, but they're not long scales. And like a few of mine that are very short, but then mostly songs. I'll do, and I sing bits of songs that are really low for my register, some mids, and then some really high singing for my register. And I do transitions from low to really high screams. And then there's just some superstitious songs that I'll sing, like I gotta sing a verse of that song, verse of this song that I've done for many years. And,
So you already mentioned something about my next questions. So are there like some specific foods or drinks that you have felt that they help you with the singing, or on the opposite side, something that you don't want to take that you have felt that they harm your vocal cords, for example, somehow?
Sure, yeah, for singing, I drink water all day, all room temp, all day. Tea, I drink tons of tea, you know, and when I'm on tour, all my tea has honey, always. Manuka honey, so you know. And in the morning it's green tea, that's just to wake me up. But I know you shouldn't put honey in green tea technically, but I do, because on tour it's just about keeping my voice mellow. So green tea with Manuka honey. Midday I usually have some ginger tea, Manuka honey. Go on stage, it's a mixture of English breakfast tea and ginger tea.
Okay.
Because I want the ginger tea to relax, but the black tea just for that extra bit of caffeine. Manuka honey, you know, I'm always taking Hall's lemon honey lozenges throughout the day. I always take Fisherman's Friend throughout the day, you know, anything to kind of keep me just warmed up. And then, you know, before I go on stage, sometimes I'll take like a few nips of gin. It just kind of relax the throat and
ready to go.
Yeah, but people think, because with Death Angel I'll put the gin on stage and people think, you drink a bottle of gin on stage tonight? I'm like, no, I'd be dead. You know, I'm not the largest guy, but you know, fans get things in their head, you know, so it's just, those are the main drinks. It's just a lot of tea, a lot of honey, a lot of water, you know, just a lot of lozenges, and you know, that's it. Oh, when I don't drink dairy. Like I don't drink milk or eat things like that throughout the day. It's just not that. I don't or orange juice, citrus like that. I think it's just too acidic, and I'm worried that it's going to do something. Tomato juice, any of those kind of things just seem a little too harsh. So those are things I try to avoid. Yeah, on tour for sure.
So obviously you've released quite a lot of albums with Death Angel, and now obviously one with Kerry as well, but are there like some specific Death Angel albums where you have felt that you've taken like big step forward as a vocalist, learned something new about yourself?
I'd say, I think the biggest progressions I made were probably the first record we did with Jason Sukoff, Relentless Retribution. I think that for me was a milestone. It's jumping up from, even though we already did, you know, 2 comeback records from the 80s, we already did 2, but I think that's where vocally, how I worked with Jason and how he brought some things out of me, and my ability just seemed to really jump up, and that was a milestone for sure. And then I think after that would be The Evil Divide. So that's when one song in particular, a song called Lost. That it's a very melodic song, big melodic chorus with, you know, very powerful high singy chorus, and to me that was vocally up to that point was my proudest moment. And I could play that for people not even into metal, you know, that song, and they'd be like, wow, you know, your voice has come a long way. And I felt, you know, good when I did that as well. So those would be the 2 milestones for Death Angel. Yeah. And then of course when it comes to, you know, the Kerry King record, that's just an entirely different beast altogether, with a different approach vocally than I do with Death Angel completely. So that in a sense is a milestone, because it's just a much more aggressive attack from song 1 till the end.
I was actually going to ask you next about that album. That was there like a different approach to the vocals that there is in Death Angel? Because obviously Kerry has a reputation of being Slayer, and obviously there's Tom Araya, who was quite the vocalist.
Of course.
So did that affect like anyhow?
Yeah, of course. And the approach for the record with Kerry, From Hell I Rise, the approach definitely, it's very aggressive from the get-go. I worked a lot with Kerry on demos prior to recording the record, and he knows, he's very methodical, you know, and he knows what he wants and what he hears in his head. So we would go and do demos of these songs, and then take them back, listen to them, you know, for a few weeks, then go back in and re-demo them, and we just kept getting the intensity level and, you know, just a bit higher. And certain things we'd listen to, just to phrasings and whatnot, working on stuff like that. And then when we got into the studio with Josh Wilbur, who produced it, the 3 of us worked really, really well together. And that was it. You know, they brought out, you know, a lot of aggression in me, and just certain things. We wanted to not say reinvent the voice, but just give it a different facet, you know. And because there would be points we'd be in the studio and like a little more intense, or let's take out the vibrato in that part, you know, just something that I would do. And there was definitely like even some points where Kerry's like, that would sound a little too Death Angel-y. You know what I mean? Like just to, you know, and I hear what he's saying. It's like, okay, yeah. So it just kind of things like that. But I really like what came out with and how we worked together, and especially there's one song which was I believe it was the second song we released as a single and a video, which is Residue, and that has probably the most aggressive vocals I've ever done on any song. And I remember when I was doing it in the studio, Kerry was out. I think he had a meeting or something, and so me and Josh already started tracking vocals for it. And I did the first verse and the chorus, and then Kerry came in and wanted to hear where we were, and then all of a sudden he heard it, and he said to Josh, and who told him to sing in that register or any, you know? Josh was like, no, he just started doing it. And then Kerry came into the isolation booth where I was recording, and he said, hey man, it sounds sick, but are you sure you can replicate that daily on tour? Or are you going to do 3 shows and be like, I'm done, yeah. And I was like, I got this, you know, and I do. And I knew that we did because when we were doing demos, we spent hours on these songs. And then when we were tracking in the studio, for this record, what they had me do, which I hadn't done with Death Angel prior, was they had me singing from basic tracks on, because they wanted my voice to sound like I'd been on the road for like months already. So I was singing from the get-go, and by the time it came to keyboard tracks, when it was just me laying vocals on top, my voice already had this grit, this natural grit from singing so much already. So
from that point, probably you knew that it would work.
Yes, and knock on wood, or whatever. Knock on wood, we're doing quite a few shows in a row, and we have this tour ahead of us, and my voice is getting stronger as we go. Because it's settling in. Because it is a new approach for how I got to do this live. Like in Death Angel, I know which songs would be more melodic. So I see the set and I know where I'm going to pace myself through the set to make it, I guess, smooth run. With this, I'm still finding where my bits are that I have to pace myself and get my breaths. And that being said, I'm sorry because I'll go on tangents, but you also mentioned Tom Mariah, because he, to me, is iconic. His voice is iconic. I have the utmost respect for Tom, the utmost respect in Tom, and fan of his voice. So now live we're doing, some Slayer songs, which is, not a surprise to some people, but we do. And I just do my best to emulate them, but I tell you this, people will say, is it intimidating? And to me, it's not intimidating. It's a pleasure to get to sing them and to show people that I do those songs justice, and as long as I'm doing the songs justice, I think we're all on the right page. And to me, it's being, homage to a band that I love, because I'm a Slayer fan. Hell yeah, I'm a Slayer fan. Am I a fan of Tom's voice? Hell yeah, I'm a fan of Tom's voice. So I got to do my best to make the fans happy about it. Hell yes, I am.
So I have 2 questions left, but the second last one actually goes that what were your parents' reactions when they heard you first time screaming your lungs out?
So my parents are very supportive in everything I do. However, growing up, I was very much into extracurricular activities. I played sports. I played American football. I played soccer, basketball, which is soccer's football. And I played baseball. I played everything for years and on teams. And I was on a traveling soccer team that played from Canada to Mexico. Like I took that serious. And at one point, that's what I wanted to do, was become a football player. And also education. My parents take education very seriously. And one day, when I finally just I started growing my hair and said, I'm going to be a singer of bands. And I quit sports. That's the first time I saw my parents not being supportive of my decisions. It was a long road for them to really accept it.
But now they are happy what you've done.
So proud of me. So happy. So they come to the local shows and just, my dad wears Death Angel shirt, Death Angel hoodie all the time. He's just And if someone comes up to him, what's that? He's like, oh, that's my son. Like and he'll brag at that. People take photos with him, and you just see him. He's beaming, you know. And they're a very supportive family. They're some of my biggest fans, and I just it makes this all the more, I guess, fulfilling. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's awesome.
Last question, any kind of advice that you would like to give to a young metal vocalist who's just about to start their journey? I guess this is a question you've been asked millions of times from different musicians.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anything, you know, what I'd say to them is just find your own voice and have patience, because finding your own voice is where there's going to be critics, especially now, because I grew up in the 80s where it was just magazines and fanzines putting you down. Now there's the internet, which everyone is a critic, and everyone feels like they have this safe soapbox to preach from, and people take their word as gospel. So I just say, no matter what, find your own voice, but while you're finding it, be prepared. People are going to put it down, but don't give up. Don't take that as I suck. Take that as fuel to make yourself better and prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. And just, you know, give it your all. Give it your all. And just realize if you get to do it, if you're fortunate enough to get to do music, if you're fortunate enough to complain about music, because that's your job, you're very fortunate. Because to me, it's all I've ever wanted to do, and I get to do it. And to this day, I never take it for granted. So just be yourself. Be proud of who you are. Give it your all.
Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thank you guys.